Welcome, everyone, to this special edition of Soulful Sessions. And we are talking the Mind, Body, and Beyond podcast. And with me is my special guest, Aaron Bigelow. Thanks for being here, Aaron.
Well, great to be here. How's Florida today?
Florida is hot and sunny, just like I like it. This is the perfect weather
Mm.
for a tropical girl like myself.
Well, I am on the opposite coastline. It's 75 degrees and sunny with 0% humidity.
Okay, so nice, just a different nice.
Yes, yes. Some people love humidity. I am not one of those.
It's good for my hair. So
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I'm
See?
okay with it.
It's
Yeah,
all perception.
it always works out.
Yes.
So, for those of you who are tuning in and you may not know Aaron, I'm going to share just a little bit about him, and then he and I are going to dive into a really fun, I think, conversation about wellness. With the Mind, Body, and Beyond podcast, all of my guests are here because I have been inspired, impressed by them, their modalities, or their products. And they've been gracious enough to come on to the show and we talk about how our mind, our body, and then when I say beyond, we're talking about the quantum, that the parts of our experience that we might not be able to necessarily explain or be able to to wrap our head around in a way. However, I think some of the guests that I will be having on, and Aaron especially with his product, the AmpCoil device, will be able to give us a little bit of a, I don't know, like a landing spot to be able to wrap our minds, our bodies around this technology, which is pretty incredible. And we're going to talk about that soon. But first of all, Aaron has been working in the holistic health technology industry for about 30 years. He's going to tell us a little bit about what that means and where he's been playing and dancing in. He created this sound tech transformational tool, which is the AMP coil, that empowers people to become the stewards of their own health, which I absolutely love. I love that. So, aligned with the principles of nature, AMP coil is powered by the Better Guide app and is the only system that merges PEMF, biofeedback, bioresonance, Tesla, and sound technology into an all-in-one wellness system that can be used in your home. But it's also something you can go to different places and have a facilitator guide you with that as well. So you don't necessarily have to purchase this yourself, but if you have a chronic illness or you have something going on in your life that really could use regular support, it might not be a horrible idea to have one in your home to use on a regular basis. Really quickly, I just want to share my experience with the amp coil because I feel like I said, I'm sharing from the experiences that I had. And one thing that I really found compelling about the amp coil was this. Similar to other guests that I've had on the show, Aaron and I met at the Biohacker Expo in Miami. And what was profound to me was that you're in this expo center filled with, I don't know how many, I mean, over 100 different practitioners, facilitators, entrepreneurs, all with different skills and different devices that they were sharing. I tried quite a lot that had to do with the PEMF technology. So it's like the electronic frequencies, like pulse frequencies. And I had tried a couple different ones there. I'm not going to say which ones that I really didn't feel a whole lot with. And that doesn't mean they're not working. It just didn't necessarily have an impact on me. The amp coil is smallish, like it's maybe about so big in a coil form. It was in a little pouch. I laid on this zero gravity type chair, kind of like nothing super fancy. Like I think you guys probably, I don't know if you brought them in from California or if you just bought them when you were there, but just kind of a basic chair. And it was kind of chilly in the expo center. And so you all had blankets. I put the coil on my belly. I put the blanket on top of me. Everyone there was so lovely and wonderful. And what I found fascinating was the moment that I put it on my belly, within seconds, I felt this heat, like quite a lot of heat from the device. We had headphones on, I had an eye mask on, so I was kind of in this like private little place. Even though you're in an expo center with all these people, I felt like I was being transported. And the what really struck me was that I only did a 5-minute protocol because I had a limited amount of time and I was trying to get to a lot of people in that time frame. And in that 5 minutes, I noticed a fundamental change in my energetics. I noticed that heat on my belly. I noticed the music and the sound frequencies because I'm pretty tuned into that, and I'm very sensitive to those sorts of things. I noticed immediately it was kind of taking me on this journey, if you will. This is 5 minutes. I know that there were some other protocols that were 20 minutes, some up to an hour, if I'm not mistaken. I would have loved to have been able to sit there on that chair for at least 20 minutes, but I didn't have that luxury at the time. And when I kind of came out of it and I was sitting there just kind of regrouping, I was talking to one of the gals that was there, and I asked her if it's normal for you to feel heat like that. Like, is that everyone have that? And she said it's not unusual. She said, but it doesn't happen that way for everyone. So I felt like there was a power to this technology that is targeted for each individual person because I have had some gut issues, some different health challenges that I know are related to the abdomen and that part of my body. So the fact that I was noticing this tremendous amount of heat gave me the indication that something was happening. There was a shift taking place, an alchemization, a healing in some way from 5 minutes. So luckily, Aaron happened to walk up as I was leaving, and we struck up a conversation and had a lot of synergy and in what we our experiences and just life and just kind of vibed in this space, and he kindly agreed to come on the podcast. So Aaron, I'd love to hear your feedback and your take on my experience that I had that day.
Sure. Well, you must have been intuiting that our shirt and our logo just happens to say, if you see right there, shift
Uh-huh.
happens, AmpCoil. So, got to practice what we preach.
It's
And
true. It's true.
yes, yeah. And so that is a firm belief for us, is that shift can happen in anyone. And you brought this up already. It truly is an empowerment tool. And that really is the goal, because not to take anything away from mainstream medicine or doctors, but there are a lot of people that end up with these chronic illnesses, mystery diseases, a lot of chronic autoimmune related types of scenarios. They just really aren't finding answers when they walk into their doctors or other health practitioners. And it's because it's so complex. So I like to say, somebody who had an extreme case of Lyme disease, so did my oldest daughter, who's now thriving at 19. Um, we both were almost given death sentence
Mm.
after going to multiple doctors and spending over $500,000 just keeping our family alive. So I like to say I was the right person to be bit, because I was already developing similar types of technologies, already working with incredible scientists, engineers, holistic MDs, you name it, that were actually willing to kind of get out of their own way to develop what is now the AmpCoil. And, I'd already been in this line of work for 20 plus years. You mentioned, quantum, worked with a device that a lot of longtime practitioners would know as the SKIO, or the QXCI. It's now called the Genius device, I believe. That is something that I help promote and get out to um, all 50 states and almost half the planet 20 plus years ago. And it was incredible technology, but it was super complex and not quite as powerful as we knew we needed to have an experience like you described what you experienced in 5 minutes. So that's where the AmpCoil was born. That old saying, where there's crisis, there's opportunity. That was exactly what our scenario was. And as a parent of now three teenage daughters, it's one thing to mess with you, but don't mess with my kids. So
Yes.
that's when we really went on this pilgrimage to develop a technology, because we couldn't find anything else out there that was really moving the needle, so to speak. So we put together a few pieces, which you already spoke about. We have a voice analysis technology, which has the ability to assess what's going on through the voice in a way that can determine in 30 seconds or less what frequencies to put back into the body that the body's asking for. A lot of people ask, well, where's the science on voice analysis? Well, there's actually quite a bit. It's just been suppressed, and it's now getting out through Harvard studies. If you were to go do a lie detector test these days, it'd be done through voice analysis because of the accuracy. And it's also, during COVID times, considered to be the most accurate way to test the body for those types of pathogenic activity was through voice analysis. So, it's been around for quite a while. We're just the first to really kind of take it and put it into this form and help out with these so-called mystery diseases. So here we are. It's been an exciting ride. The coil itself came from PMF technology, which, we'd like to thank, a lot, we call him the godfather of electromedicine, Nikola Tesla. And we actually just did an event right after I saw you last in New York City in the hotel that he was living in until he passed away. So It was kind of profound to be in that setting, giving lectures about this type of talk 100 plus years. So hopefully he was smiling from his grave. And we'd like to think that we've taken that technology and brought it into now, which a lot of people say is the 22nd century. So here we are, 2025. The way the amplification works with this, we have it in a small, what we call a Pelican case, which is like a military grade case that the first version we built of this 10 years ago literally was the size of a small piano, and the amplifier would blow out every couple of weeks.
Oh, gosh.
And so that was the first version. And, anything that, starts out, usually starts out with some sort of journey like this, and we are no exception. And but we stayed the course, and within less than a year, we came out with a production model that people could travel with and put on the overhead in the airplane. And it's powerful enough to the amplifier itself. If you were to hook it up to a nice set of concert speakers, you'd hear it blocks away. That's how powerful it is. And it needs to be that powerful, we found out, to go intracellular, past the blood-brain barrier. And I'll just say, get to where these bugs like to live. They are so smart that, like, for example, Lyme disease, somehow they burrow into the back part of your skull and the thick part of your skull because they think nothing can get to them there. Well, this type of sound frequency backed with a copper coil, which is considered to be the most conductive metal to healing, we're able to get there and basically neutralize them and knock them out of the body without disarming or putting the body through any sort of discomfort it doesn't need. So it's actually healthy frequencies for the body, but these bugs can't stand it. So, that's, kind of the big aha that we had is, when people come in and they have neurological issues, that we're able to literally turn the lights back on in, sometimes a few minutes or less. Not much different than what you experienced during that 5 minutes. So that's how powerful this is. And if somebody's really symptomatic, they're going to notice shift happening. So it's been our mantra. We've been at this for 10 years. We're very fortunate now that we have practitioners and users in all 50 states and over 30 countries. And we're just getting started. We're even coming out with an app that people will be able to do from home to do a voice analysis and see if something like the AmpCoil is the right tool for them. And then we can, send them to a practitioner, most likely within a half hour or an hour, wherever they live. So it's exciting times. And I'm sure you have more questions.
I do. I have lots of questions, Aaron. Lots of questions. Okay. So let's talk about Lyme for a moment, because you brought that up a couple times.
Sure.
And so, I used to live in Loudoun County in Virginia, which was number 2, I think, in the nation for Lyme disease incidences and cases. It was up to 1. I think it's kind of rang for a few other places. I think in Connecticut, where it was that this kind of been known to have incidences of Lyme.
Yes.
So obviously that was it. Luckily, knock on wood, did not affect me or my family, but it did affect a lot of people that I knew. And my oldest friend, who lived in southeastern Virginia, she ended up contracting Lyme, but she didn't know it for at least a year. And she went to the doctors. And I'm sure you experienced this, where the doctors told her, you need to go see a psychologist because you're
100%.
all
That's
mental.
exactly what myself and my wife went through. Both of us.
Yes. And, that's really not what you want to hear when you physically are feeling things are not right. And it's
very
getting
disheartening.
Worse. Yes.
Yes.
So she ended up, because there was such a high rate of it in the Northern Virginia area where I was living, she was coming up to Northern Virginia, making the 3.5-hour journey to find a doctor that was Lyme literate, which there were very few at the time.
Yep.
And obviously there were co-infections that arose because of the time
Hmm.
that it was in her body without being addressed. My
Yep.
question to you is for now that there's a lot more knowledge about it and people are a
Hmm.
lot more literate, doctors are more literate, which I think is the one of the key factors here, is
Yes.
would you say with this device, like if somebody has a sense or they know that
Hmm.
it's Lyme for them,
Hmm.
would you say the amp coil would be something you could work in tandem with, or instead of like some of the really crazy high dosage antibiotics that people put in your body, which
So
create even more problems?
yeah, so great question. So people ask me that question a lot. And if somebody just got Lyme and they knew they just got it,
Hmm.
antibiotics can do the job and knock it out pretty quickly. But if it's generally gone on for more than 30 to 60 days, where
Hmm.
you don't know when you got it, you're probably going to create more harm than good.
Okay.
And with that, if it has passed the blood-brain barrier, which was definitely my case, and I'd say probably two-thirds of the people that have Lyme have neurological Lyme, and there isn't an antibiotic in the world that's going to pass the blood-brain barrier and knock it out.
Hmm.
So that's part of why we're here, was to create a powerful enough tool to get to where these things think they're smart enough to not be caught.
Well, and I love that it's something that is pleasant
Mm-hmm.
to experience. It's a,
Yep.
it's a quote unquote treatment that is
Mm-hmm.
not miserable. And I think most people, when they think about a treatment for some sort of a health condition, there's an ick factor to it.
Of
It's
course.
so this to me, and again, like I said, I would have loved to have experienced it longer than 5 minutes to be able to
Mm-hmm.
know that it's going to have an impact on the
Mm-hmm.
body. So Aaron introduced me to a friend of his that lives in my neck of the woods. He and I were not able to connect, but we are, and I'm going to have Aaron back on to talk about
Mm-hmm.
having had a longer experience. And I'm going to kind of play with it a little bit and experiment with
Mm-hmm.
some different things that might be happening for me at the time. I don't know what it will be yet because it
Sure.
hasn't been scheduled, but
Of course.
and then be able to talk about like in real time, this was something that was happening, and then post
Mm-hmm.
amp coil session, this is how I felt, because I think that's, most of us love to have that immediate gratification, that
Mm-hmm.
immediate knowing that something has shifted and changed.
Sure.
And I can say I feel like the amp coil is a great tool, a great device to help people, feel that, and then it to be prolonged. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
the one and done. It's, the continuous healing after that. So speaking of that, what have you found to be kind of that sweet spot for people? And I guess it depends on the severity of what might be
Mm-hmm.
happening for them, but what do you find tends to be the best for most?
Yeah. Well, of course, everybody's different. Depends on what somebody's coming to us for.
Hmm.
But, the more symptomatic somebody is with whatever it is, and they're conscious of what it is, they're going to again notice most likely a profound shift even in the first session. And we always, our mantra is do no harm.
Hmm.
And this device really becomes very meditative for almost anybody that uses it more than once. They actually feel so good after the session majority of the time that they want to come back and keep using it. It's like their happy place to go.
Hmm.
And it's not uncommon to go into a deep state of meditation or fall asleep, even if you've never meditated before. And that throws a lot of people for a loop because they haven't experienced that before. And is really resetting the nervous system and allowing the body to start healing once that happens, turn off the fight or flight. And so, as far as experiences people have with this, how long they use it, if somebody comes to us and they've had chronic Lyme or something similar to that for decades, it's not going to be a one and done session. But can they feel a big shift in one session? Yeah, to where they feel hope again, like the lights turn back on and they want to come back. That is a very common occurrence. And I would say worst case scenario, now that we've been doing this for 10 plus years, and see the worst of the worst that you can possibly imagine, they all find us. Um, on worst case scenario, 3 to 4 months, we can get somebody from where they thought they were kind of on their deathbed, so to speak, to fully thriving in life again, as long as they follow our other simple lifestyle changes that we recommend in conjunction with it. So that's worst case scenario. It's not uncommon for us to have people that maybe just contracted Lyme or something like that, within the past few months, to where in 30 days or less, they feel like they're better than before they even knew that they were sick. And then, this is a tool that you can use for just about anything, whether it's sports performance or studying or back pain, you name it, because everything's related to a frequency, and we have the corrective frequency for whatever that is. And it's really like a tuning fork. So, for those of you who are musicians or have ever watched somebody tune a guitar, the AmpCoil is really a highly tuned instrument that's bringing you back to that ideal state. We really vibrate in nature best around 432 hertz. I know I sent you a video earlier on this phenomenon that you
Yep.
resonated with. And it's something that's been suppressed from us for a long time, even though it's right in front of us. Any world-class musician knows this. They write all love songs from that frequency. So they know they're going to write a love song. They know it's going to speak to the heart. Our AmpCoil is the same way. It speaks to the heart. The heart loves it. The heart's a powerful transmitter. A lot of people don't even realize how powerful it is. That with the way the coil is designed, it penetrates 4 feet in every direction. We have the coil, which you generally put over your chest, and then a mat, which you can lie on as well. So you're really sandwiched between all these amazing frequencies, which is like beautiful music back to the soul. And for those that live in the city and are inundated with 5G towers and Wi-Fi and smart meters, all these things, this is like an oasis within, all those, I'll just say, a cesspool of negative frequencies. So, that's really where the AmpCoil shines, and starts to get people to realize that they can ground in an environment like this and start the healing process again. Because Lyme or any other sort of parasitic activity thrives in chaos.
Mhm.
So, if you can calm down the body, we also, really highlight, I would say majority of the people that come to us have had some sort of traumatic incident that may have triggered the Lyme to really kind of set off a bomb in the body. And a lot of times it's either a bad relationship, not a healthy work environment, combination of those things. And, when people start to, I'll just say, detox themselves from unhealthy relationships, that's a huge component that allows for something like the AmpCoil to really do its job.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm glad you brought up a couple of things, relationships being a big one. If we are not in a relationship, whether that's an intimate partnership or a work environment, like you mentioned, that's fulfilling us, that is in our resonance, in our
Mm-hmm.
frequency, that,
Yep.
and not all the time, obviously there's friction and tension and challenge that comes up, which is part of our experience, but that can really affect kind of like this domino effect of other areas of our life, our health often being one of them. You mentioned the 432 hertz frequency, which is like
Mm-hmm.
that universal frequency. Um,
Yep.
and you may also know this, but I want to share it with anyone that might be listening too, that, on YouTube and other places like that, they have there are videos that have the 432 hertz, but however, it's not necessarily coming through that way. So if
Mm-hmm.
people are
Correct.
interested in the actual healing of the 432 hertz, Aaron, your device, the amp coil
Mm-hmm.
might be a way, or purchasing 432 music from musicians directly where you can download it yourself, is something
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah, well, and
consider.
I'll be happy to plug another product too that we also have our voice analysis in.
Yeah.
It's called Newcom,
Okay.
and it's a sound app that anybody can purchase. There's week free trials on it. You can experience the voice analysis there as well, and it'll give a brain assessment of how healthy your brain is, and then you'll be able to play what's some people call binaural beats, but this is like binaural beats on steroids because of how complex it is and how amazing the frequencies are to really help with healing the brain.
Okay.
So Nucalm, which is Nucalm, Nucalm, is another great tech that works in conjunction with using the amp coil, and that people can use that from home anytime.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know about that. That's really fun too. And I'll make sure I have all these links for everyone
Yeah,
in the
of
notes
course.
below so they can quickly and easily access it. One thing I wanted to ask you about the frequencies too is so All right, so with the voice analysis, which I'm really excited to try out at some point, it will kind of dictate, okay, this is where you might need a little bit of support, and there are healing frequencies that are
Yep,
targeted for that.
correct.
Where did you get the kind of the correlation points between the physical issue that's showing up through the voice and then the healing frequency that corresponds with it?
Okay. Well, everything vibrates at a frequency. So every time you speak, and I'm sure we all have had this experience where when somebody starts to get heated,
Hmm.
the tones that come out of their voice are not fun to receive on the other end.
Right.
And so, and usually when that happens, there's a lot of anger in that person or frustration, and those are all frequencies that vibrate at a certain pitch. So we've been able to catalog those over the years, and so every time somebody speaks into the speaker in their phone or in the tablet that we use for the AmpCoil, you're going to basically get a match on the other end to see if the body is out of resonance with that frequency. And so, it's literally, I mean, the easiest way to describe it, this is the body's innate intelligence telling something like a phone or a tablet, hey, this is where I need help.
Mm,
So it's truly coming from the body as opposed to someone else making a guess of what they think you need.
right. Right.
That's how intelligent our body really is. And it's coming from the vagus nerve, which controls the ability to dictate where the imbalances are. So that's where it's coming from. The science on it is phenomenal for those that want to check into it. We can send some links as well. And it was really a game changer when we knew we wanted to put this in, because usually people that are dealing with these types of issues are dealing with what we call whack-a-mole, where they're hoping that they're going after the right thing because these things can hide so well in the body. And so with the voice analysis, it can determine, okay, you're not crazy. Here's what's going on, and here's the areas that we can focus on. And then it even gives it a numerical value so you can see how important it is to focus on at the time. And then, over a multitude of sessions, you tend to see those numbers drop considerably back down to a normal range before you thought you were even sick. So that's kind of the short version
Okay.
of how it works. And for those that want to do a deeper dive, we can, set up supporting materials.
That's amazing. Yeah. So basically, it's, whatever the voice analysis reveals, there is
Mm-hmm.
a frequency that you match to it based on your research and just from different uh, people that you like a database that you have, I guess, if you will, that kind of
Correct.
shows where you're looking to bring it back into coherence. Am I
Yeah.
understanding that correctly?
Yeah. And we like to say you can't hide from the voice, and
Okay.
again, all of us have had experiences where we're talking to somebody like, "Ooh, I can't stand their voice,"
Yeah. Right.
and it's usually either because that person may be very dark or super sick, and because I've been doing this so long, I can talk to somebody over the phone or meet them in person in about 30 seconds, really know if they're sick or not. I've
Mm.
just become that attuned to it, which, it can be a blessing and a curse. And more often than not, now I find it as a blessing. And when somebody's open, I'm, able to help them. So, it's exciting. And I think as people start to use technologies like ours, they become much more aware of themselves, of what to stay away from, and who and what to invite into their life, because this becomes like truth serum.
Yeah, I could see where this could be beneficial for those people who are open to it and freak people out who are not.
Yes,
Yeah. Um,
correct.
I want to touch in briefly on autoimmune
Okay.
diseases and disorders because that is very prevalent and pronounced. And I know that
Mm-hmm.
the device is really geared towards, Lyme and autoimmune as well as other things, but those are two of the biggest ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little research on just some statistics around it, just out of curiosity and preparation for our conversation. And I found that there was a study from the University of Oxford, or Oxford
Mm-hmm.
University, of 22 million people worldwide. And they found that 1 in 10 people is diagnosed or struggling with some form of autoimmune disease, which
Hmm.
was staggering to me. Women are affected more than men.
Hmm.
And the Health Council said that there are 25 to 31 million Americans, and likely more, that have some form of an autoimmune disorder, which I
Yep.
find really staggering, because there's plenty of people out there, I think, that probably are walking around with something that they don't even know that they
Yep.
have until it's too late, until it
That is
turns
correct.
into something
Yep.
significant.
Yeah. Well, and this is where, we're excited about having tech that's, coming out in the next couple of weeks, where people can literally assess themselves from home
Yeah.
and, use it as an early detection tool to see where they're at. And, if, our technology is really going to help them sooner than later before it becomes that big of an issue. So, and as far as the numbers you're reporting, I think it's quite a bit higher than that.
Yeah.
When I just kind of, because I run across people all over the country and all over the world, I'd
Hmm.
say more like 1 out of 3.
Wow. Okay.
And a lot, like you said, a lot of them just don't know it,
Yeah.
and they go to mainstream doctor. The blood tests that are there don't even test for parasites, on and on and on. And, that's where we come in. So, that old saying, where there's crisis, there's opportunity. And fortunately, when we talk about, statistics out there, our, without getting into politics, our current administration right now, is wide open to technologies like ours, really helping. For the first time ever, we've actually got support in
Wow.
that sector to not only prove out what we're doing, but embrace it on a much larger level. And
Interesting.
I think a big part of it is one who's now in charge of the FDA, which is actually Kennedy, and also the fact that the world became so, I'll just say, paralyzed since COVID, whether people got the shot or just had COVID multiple times. There's now this new so-called disease, which is called long haulers COVID, which ironically shows up just like Lyme disease. So
Mm.
we're able to pivot and help those people as well, which is a huge part of the population that mainstream medicine just does not have an answer for. So, that's another huge segment of the population we can support.
Yeah, so it's fascinating to me. If I think what I would love for people to take away from this conversation is that healing doesn't have to be hard, and
Correct.
healing doesn't have to hurt.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like that is what we've been, a bill of goods we've been sold for a very, very long time.
Been down that road. And to add on to that, um, when we say do no harm, when people do start to use the cleansing journeys, which is really going after, I'll just say, the bugs, um, you can get what's known as a Herxheimer response, which is
Hmm.
basically like a detox. You almost feel like you're hungover. And so one of the things that we knew we needed to do was put frequencies in there that if somebody's prone to that, or they think they might be going through a detox, that there's like a Herx help button in there that basically elevates the body, charges it up, so you can still function that day, as opposed to being bedridden as a result of it. So that gives people even more comfort to fully dive in and, work through things that maybe they would have been scared to otherwise, because of having to go through that in the past. So, that is one of the areas that we're, really focus on. And, this really is a movement. And, we're very fortunate that, the most of the people that come to us have had their own healing journey or healing crisis they were working through. And they bought the technology to help themselves. And then they realized, wow, I want to start helping others. And it's really about, kind of like what they do in AA, where I'm better now, reach out and help someone else.
Mm.
And that's what I think is probably the most empowering thing about all this. And, very rarely does somebody purchase an AmpCoil and then have it end up in their closet, 3 months later. Because a lot of our clients initially will say, well, how long do I have to use this? And I'm like, well, if you're lucky, you get to use it the rest of your life, because you can use it for so many things. And I don't think the world's going to become all of a sudden less toxic. We're going to continue to need things to help counterbalance what we're being bombarded with every moment of the day. So it becomes, and we have tons of people that start naming their AmpCoil. It's like this inanimate object that has become their new best friend. And they'll send us pictures and, like, for the kids, like, put a teddy bear around the coil and, all kinds of stuff just to have fun with it. And, it's when I tend to meet people that have experienced it for a while, they'll want to talk my ear off about their experience and who and how it's affected them. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be really rewarding to hear these stories from people, or the
Yeah.
pictures that they share and send, and see how it's profoundly impacted them to the point where they felt compelled to share with you, like take the
Yeah.
time to send
Yeah. I mean,
something.
when we first started out in this, we started out in a small town of the thriving metropolis of Nevada City, which is in Northern California, about 5,000 people. It's in the foothills of Lake Tahoe, beautiful little town, but deers everywhere. And
Mm.
so huge portion of the population had Lyme. We didn't even know this when we moved there. And then when we developed the first version, we had hundreds of people coming in and doing sessions at our small little headquarters. And next thing we knew, without ever attempting to sell this to anyone, we had over 100 people that own the technology within a town of 5,000 people.
Wow.
And so I would meet these people as they would come into the clinic, and some of them looked like they were on their deathbed. And then see them months later in the store, they'd come up and give me a hug. I wouldn't recognize them. I didn't know who they were because they had made that much of a shift. And I saw this numerous times. And that was like, no matter how hard this is to birth technology like this and deal with all the upheaval from the powers that be that maybe don't want you around, and all the things that probably a lot of your listeners are aware of, it makes it all worth it when you see the shift that happens in these people.
Oh, yeah.
And and we wanted to make it super fun and easy to do. We have this great community that supports everyone. And when we first started the first version of this, my youngest daughter was about 5, and she would get the flu, and she'd say, "Daddy got the flu. What do I need to do?" I'd say, "Honey, you know how to click on the AmpCoil, what to run," and she would go and do it herself. And more often than not, if we caught it early enough, the next day she was fine. So, again, an empowerment tool for parents that, is a game changer for their kids. And then the kids get to empower themselves and understand how to use it. So, it's super easy. We also like to say it's so easy, even a Lyme can do it, because people with Lyme disease tend to be very forgetful or have a hard time tracking just conversations or what they're supposed to do next. So with a few button clicks, you can get to just about anywhere to help the healing begin.
That's pretty cool. So I'm imagining that people that are listening, if they're not fascinated or curious by now, I don't know what to say, because I mean, I've experienced it already and I'm excited to experience it again. When people go, if they go to ampcoil.com, is there some information, a location
Mm-hmm.
provide, like how can they
Great
find it
question.
locally?
Yeah, so AmpCoil is always the place to start. We don't necessarily have all our practitioners and users on the site, but there's a
Okay,
number you can call, and depending on what the scenario is, we will definitely link you up with the right person in your area, which, and more often than not, isn't much more than a half hour to an hour away.
great. Great. That's fantastic. And then you were saying that the app, the one that
Mm-hmm.
does the voice analysis,
Yep.
that's like upcoming. So that's going to be maybe probably right around the time that this podcast is released. Is that
Mm-hmm.
something that people can find on, in the Apple Store,
Yeah.
on
It'll
Google Play?
there'll be a link on the site for sure,
Okay.
of where to find that. And so again, the voice analysis is already in our tech, but that is the one that is in the tablet when you go and have an experience live.
Right. Right.
And the goal, which I spoke about earlier in the podcast, is to be able to do an analysis from home so it can really determine, where they're at and, how we can help. And the goal with that too is to link it to a couple of people in your area, so you won't even have to call and find someone in your area.
Oh, that's
So,
really great.
yep.
Yeah. And I think that also gives people a place of, if they are curious, but they might be a little apprehensive or they're just not sure.
Exactly.
This gives them a place of like, oh, this actually really could be helpful for
Yep.
me. And, I'm also, for those of you who are like, I'm sold, I have
Hmm.
a chronic fill in the blank, or
Hmm.
maybe they have Lyme. I'm going to leave some links below for you as well if you decide that you want to give the device a go yourself and just try it and have it in your own home. So there isn't a matter of going somewhere else, and really immerse yourself in that experience too.
Well, and it really is an experiential tool. So, it's unless you're fully deep in these conversations, a lot of times it's too good to be true.
Mm.
So, that's why I always say, um, come give it a try. And it's fascinating. People that are, I'll just say, very intellectual, that want to do deep dives on research before they even touch it. We'll give them a little bit, like an appetizer, because we want them to kind of get out of their, I'll just say, the mental masturbation, if you want to call it that.
Yes. Yeah.
Pardon my French. And but it happens a lot, and it gets in the way of healing. So people like that, I'll tend to say, you know what, those are great questions. How about we do it, if you're comfortable, we'll do a session for you now, and let me know if you still have those questions afterwards. And almost 100% of the time they get up, they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And they don't even think to answer the question because their belief system just changed that it's actually working.
It almost is irrelevant at that point. It's like,
Correct.
I think as humans we're wired, and no offense to you, Aaron, mostly men I think are
Yeah.
wired to the prove it to me sort of
Oh, 100%.
mentality. So,
Yeah.
I would imagine with men who might be very skeptical in particular, women can be too. I'm not saying we're not.
Oh,
But
yeah.
for them, I would imagine they have the experience and they get up and their questions would just be wiped away because they've just
Yeah.
had a profound experience that they can't necessarily explain.
80% of our business is women. And
Mm.
then what happens more often than not is the so-called crazy wife. Oh no, what is she wanting to purchase now?
Yes.
She talks them into it. She brings it home. All of a sudden, she's working on herself and the kids. The dad starts to notice that the kids are doing a lot better. Mom's a lot happier. He actually wants to be around his family. Then all of a sudden he comes home and he threw out his back. He's like, can this thing possibly help with my back? And then all of a sudden he gets up 30 minutes later and goes, okay,
Yeah.
now I'm sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I think a real phenomenon that
Oh, more
occurs.
often than not. Yeah. I used to work with Dr. John Gray. You may know who he is.
Mhm.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus,
Yes.
and worked with him closely. And he goes, Aaron, men and women are fundamentally different in a very simple way. Think of a 747 cockpit. Women, all the gauges and all the levers and all the things, they got it all on lockdown in a matter of minutes. They're like, bring it on. I'm going to figure all this out. Men, give me that gear shift, turn the key, and I'm going to get really good at that.
Uh-huh.
And that's generalizing, obviously, but I think there's a lot of truth to that, and understanding the dynamics between the two of us.
Well, I also feel like men are full throttle.
Well,
Like it
there
would
you
be like,
go.
let's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
go. Where
exactly.
women are not quite that prone to
Yeah,
do that,
yeah,
as much. Again, we're
yeah.
broad stroking here, so
Well, I mean, case in point, we've only had one Formula One female driver thus far, I believe. I think there's actually another one now, but
okay.
it's until now, to
Yeah,
prove your point.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Exactly, exactly.
yeah,
For now,
yeah.
and things are shifting, things are
Of course.
changing,
Yeah.
and I think people like you and devices and tools like this and expanding our mindset, expanding our capacity to heal
Yeah.
too through these new technologies is just so fundamental to where we're going right now, particularly in
Oh,
these
we
times.
with that without getting too out there is a major shift on the planet right now.
Mhm.
Um, and I like to say, lovingly, people are given a choice. It's almost like in the Matrix, the red pill or was the red pill the purple pill? Was it
Blue, red or blue.
blue? It was a blue. Sorry.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
anyway, and I don't know if people are always conscious of this, But during COVID, I think a lot of people made one choice or the other. They either chose to become subhuman, where they actually want to be dictated, controlled by an outside source, more power to them. And then the others went far the other direction, where I want to be superhuman. I want to empower myself. I want to find ways to thrive that don't require somebody else or something else telling me what to do.
Mhm.
And those tend to be the people that really gravitate towards, our tools like ours.
Yeah, I think it's important to feel that sense of empowerment right now and finding
Hmm.
ways where you recognize that you are able to heal yourself, that your body is designed to do that. It's
Correct.
just
Yeah.
giving it the environment in order to
Yeah.
do what it knows how to do, not throwing a pill or a
Yeah.
pharmaceutical at it. And listen, I'm also not saying that there are not situations where that might be
Oh,
warranted.
100%. Yeah.
It's just not the first choice. It
Yes.
needs to be really, there needs to be some judicious um, activations within each of us to
Of
determine what
course.
is best for each one of us. And
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things we're working on as we speak too, is through the voice analysis technology determine whether or not a supplement or maybe even a pharmaceutical is the right approach at the time. So you really are guiding people down a path that's going to best serve them,
right. Yeah,
and
because
there are times.
it's not all or nothing. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm probably like you, Aaron, really more of a natural, holistic kind of a person when it comes to my health and my healing. However, there are times when, I recognize that I need something a little bit more than a specific herb or a specific food supplemental support to help
Hmm.
me get over a hump of some kind. And, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just,
Yeah. Yeah, well,
how,
with that too, one of the things that would be worth mentioning before we part ways here today
yeah.
is this tech. There's a lot of people, I'm sure, in your audience which have gotten into biohacking in the last 5, 10 years, since that's become a hot new term, and all kinds of different technologies that are in that field. The AmpCoil is really a friend to all this. It's You can use this in conjunction with red light, with cold plunges, with saunas, you name it, and whatever you're doing, the AmpCoil is going to help the uptake of whatever that is.
Mm.
So really be conscious of what you're putting your body in, or what things you're putting, swallowing, or whatever it is, because it is going to be an uptake that's going to positively affect you. And then the flip side of that, people would come to us from time to time, especially in the beginning when we didn't really think about it. They would have 2 or 3 cocktails and then do an AmpCoil session, and then wonder why they just feel so crappy afterwards. Again, we're accelerating whatever we put in your body. So it's wild, to see the difference. And I'll end on one thing more from a nature perspective of the power of the coil. When we first opened our headquarters, I bought a bunch of plants, and I didn't think much of it at the time, and I wasn't great with plants. Bought like 10 plants, put them all around the office, and we had like 5 or 6 coils going every day. And all of a sudden, they were growing exponentially. And I thought, well, gosh, I don't really even have a green thumb. How is this possible? And I went, oh my God, is it possible that this is what the frequencies are doing? And sure enough, and we had a professional plant lady come through, and she goes, I've never seen this before. She goes, I know exactly what's happening from what you're sharing with me. This is amazing. And this just proves that what you're doing is really making a difference to bring life back into anything that it touches.
That's cool. I love that story. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that you can see it. To me, it's like, okay, so people that feel it, they have that
Hmm.
personal
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
But then it's like people who maybe don't have that connection to it, but can
Yeah.
see the difference like outwardly by a plant.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
blossoming, forgive the
Yes.
pun, and really growing.
Yep.
That's really, really cool. That is just,
Yeah.
and plants too, they're medicine for us as well. So
Oh, huge.
it's this beautiful reciprocal kind of relationship
Well, yeah.
in addition.
Yeah. And we talked about the 432 hertz. That is where all plants, all of us life form accelerate and do so well. And that's why nature is nurture. because,
Hmm.
it's unaffected by all these other fields that are constantly bombarding the body all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
So
many
this
things.
is really a tool to come back home.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Come back home simply,
Yeah.
easily,
Yep.
comfortably.
Yes. You may even name it.
Exactly right. Or have a little
Yes.
teddy bear friend that's along with it. Who knows?
Exactly.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So, okay, Aaron. So, for people who want to find out more about you and AmpCoil and
Mhm.
Newcom as well, would you mind just refreshing our memory as to where they can go?
Sure. Yeah. It's ampcoil.com. And the other one is newcom.com. And, feel free. We have an incredible team. Everybody that's been with us has been with us since day one. A couple of our key practitioners that do all our support have been working with me with previous technology for over 3 years. So it's literally like family, just
Oh,
incredible healers that just want to make a difference. And so I'm blessed every day by the people that we get to work with and amazing people like yourself that get attracted to what we do. So this is really a calling. This is what we're here for. And, I'll just end with suffering is optional. So, and when would now be a good time to shift whatever may be going on that's no longer serving you?
I love that, Aaron. Yes. I love that the concept of suffering is optional. Don't need to do it. We have a choice. We have a choice in each moment. And thank you for following your calling, which I feel
Hmm.
like you following your calling is allowing us to be our best selves in order to follow ours. So I applaud you. Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you for being there
My
for all of
power.
us. And I thank you, the viewer or a listener, whatever that may be, whatever platform you're on, for being here with Aaron and myself. Be sure to check out uh, his products. Stay tuned. We're going to have another conversation after I've had a little bit more experimentation with the amp coil. I'm super excited about that. And be sure to stay tuned to any more Mind, Body, and Beyond podcasts that are coming up, where you might get to meet someone really cool, learn something really neat, and change your life fundamentally, which would be pretty empowering and cool for you and everyone that you're in contact with. Because remember, we learn from one another, and we'll see you again soon.
Happy
Bye
to
for
be of
now.
service.